in the interest
of making sure
each of our members was heard.
We made a document. The first thing we discussed was our homeless children here in Worcester. I'm a teacher here, and 12% of my school alone, children are homeless.
Wow.
Other people in the group expressed a feeling of helplessness. We discussed poverty, the inequality of representation of the people, for the people, by the people. We discussed the towns being shut down due to a lack of manufacturing here in America. We talked about the wealth gap, which is only getting wider. Corporate greed, and the power and the influence of money, and the corporate control of social media. We're tired of the crumbs. Hard work no longer equals a sustainable way of living. Women's health care has been slashed. Healthcare layoffs. People suffering due to unemployment. We're here to learn. We're just here to see the solidarity. Come together with common goals. Rebuild our dignity. And last but not least, Worcester, Massachusetts has amazing potential. We have 10 colleges. And good hardworking people. Let's do this, Worcester. Occupy together.
One point repeatedly emphasized by the members of my group is that nonviolence and respect for the community in which we occupy is the key to our message being heard and respected. Disrespect, destructive behavior, and violence become the story. If we allow them to become part of our occupation. We all have many concerns about the future. Those of us with children expressed our concerns that they will face a future where they will not be as well off Concerns about student debt were expressed. Many people facing a period of unemployment after graduation. And a debt which they can in no way discharge. This led to a discussion of other vulnerable populations. Special needs students. handicapped persons, persons on fixed incomes, facing inflated prices, and reduced budgets for their support. We also look at the export of jobs. Over 500,000 in the last decade. Bailout money. They got bailed out. We got sold out. Our treasury even supported European and other overseas banks to prevent their collapse. Where is the support for the mortgage holder? The student with debt. We also see ongoing wars, building our national debt, draining our treasury, and resulting in private profits for contractors that the rest of us will be paying for. As other groups have expressed very eloquently, we also share the concern for the profit motive in healthcare, and the burden that that places on regular people. Another topic raised by several people was a concern about the effort on the part of certain interests to suppress the vote. To suppress the vote of minorities. To suppress the vote of students. To suppress the vote of poor people. By raising barriers of access and cost to our exercise of our franchise. Last, we wish to find ways to support the ongoing occupation of Wall Street in Lower Manhattan. We may be here for a day. We may be here for a week. We may be here for a month. But as long as Wall Street is occupied, our voices cannot be ignored.
After conferring with my group, that regardless of why we are here, or what interests we represent, that the bottom line is still the same. Our politicians, corporations, and banks are now one and the same. The same people control everything. In an ideal democracy, we would put rules and limitations on them. Instead, what we have now are them putting rules and limitations on us. Our duty here is to reclaim community. To reclaim communication. To heard to one another.
To let our voices be heard to one another.
Only then can we reclaim our power as the 99%.
Can we reclaim our power as the 99%?
Another issue is media.
Is media.
This event has been suppressed.
This event has been suppressed.
Very few people know about this.
Very few people know about this.
We need to start posting
We need to start posting
on our Facebook.
on our Facebooks.
We need to talk to other people about this.
We need to talk to other people about this.
We need to spread the word.
We need to spread the word.
Only then can the voice of the people be heard.
Only then can the voice of the people be heard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our group had a few ideas
I have a few ideas
that we came up with, talking amongst ourselves
talking amongst ourselves
as both Tea Party members
as both Tea Party members
and activists.
and activists.
One of these big ideas
One of these big ideas
is that communication is key,
is that communication is key,
and to remain open to all ideas,
and to remain open to all ideas,
and to stay away from hate.
and stay away from hate.
Also, the big issues that we see
The big issues that we see
is that representative government does not represent us at all.
does not represent us at all.
Because how can they represent us
Because how can they represent us
when they live nothing like us?
when they live nothing like us?
So, what we think
What we think
is that the problem is power,
the problem is power,
and the greed of big corporations and big government
and the greed of corporations and big government
affect us all.
affect us all.
Also, the bottom isn't being heard right now,
The bottom isn't being heard right now,
and we need to speak up.
and we need to speak up.
That is all.
That is all.
Proposed
Our group has proposed
a list of proposals we'd like to see happen here.
a list of proposals we'd like to see happen here.
First off, we'd like to see
We'd like to see
and imitate the Boston model,
and imitate the Boston model,
which includes long-term planning
which includes long-term planning,
coupled with
coupled with
spontaneous addendum to planned actions
spontaneous addendum to planned action
through mass consensus.
through mass consensus.
On the other hand,
On the other hand,
we'd like to see our model evolve
we'd like to see our model evolve
to something that is unique to the Worcester occupation.
to something that is unique to the Worcester occupation.
Yes.
On the first
On the first
list of demands,
list of demands,
we'd like to see
we'd like to see
a quickly established
a quickly established
logistics office
logistics office
that will deal
that will deal
with the logistics
with logistics
of organizing the Worcester occupation.
of organizing the Worcester occupation.
In addition,
In addition,
we'd like to see a medic tent.
we'd like to see a medic tent,
People with medical experience
people with medical experience
or supplies
or supplies
will help the people
will help the people
who are staying at Occupy Worcester
who are staying at Occupy Worcester
and aid them in health needs.
and aid them in health needs.
An outreach program,
An outreach program,
both listening
listening
to the people and their demands
to the people and their demands
and their issues
and their issues,
and approaching them
and approaching them
with our issues
with our issues
in the attempt to bring them in
in the attempt to bring them in
to the Occupy Worcester movement.
to the Occupy Worcester movement.
A direct action committee
A direct action committee
that will plan marches
will plan marches
and occupations
and occupations
around the Occupy Worcester.
around the Occupy Worcester.
A food tent
A food tent
to feed the people
to feed the people
who are at Occupy Worcester.
who are at Occupy Worcester.
It would be their responsibility
It will be their responsibility
to find donations
to find donations
and for people to donate
and for people to donate
to this food tent
to this food tent
so that they may
so that they may
Occupy easier.
Occupy easier.
A media station
A media station
that will record and interview
that will record and interview
people in direct action
people in direct action
so that the whole world may see
so that the whole world may see
what we are doing here at Occupy Worcester.
what we are doing here at Occupy Worcester. Finally,
a safety committee,
a safety committee,
not to be confused
not to be
with
confused
security,
with security,
safety, to
safety,
ensure people are safe
to ensure people are safe
and that everyone can enjoy their time here.
and that everyone can enjoy their time here.
Lastly,
Lastly,
we'd like to make our
we'd like to make our
actions legal.
actions legal.
We are the 99%,
We are the 99%,
and we do not want to tolerate
and we do not want to tolerate
the 1% any longer.
the 1% any longer. Well, first of all,
There are many problems that are in this country.
there are many problems in this country.
I am probably only going to address a few,
I'm probably only going to address a few,
or I may address all.
or I may address all.
The first one I'm going to address
The first one I'm going to address
is the oppression that takes place in many forms.
is the oppression that takes place in many forms.
Let it be a felon
Let it be a felon
who can no longer find a job.
who can no longer find a job.
Let it be a normal person
Let it be a normal person
who can no longer find a job.
who can no longer find a job.
They're all overseas.
They're all overseas.
We are subsidizing our people
We are subsidizing our people
and forcing them
and forcing them
to live in poverty.
to live in poverty.
The next point is education.
Next point is education.
Our education system is slowly shrinking to something that it was never going to be.
Our education system is slowly shrinking into something it was never going to be.
It's grown from the beginning,
It's grown from the beginning,
and we must fund it more than all the places overseas.
And we must fund it more than all the places overseas.
Next problem is social services.
Next problem is social services.
The government has been continually pulling them away,
The government has been continually pulling them away,
which is lowering the standard of living.
which is lowering the standard of living.
Another problem is
Another problem is
the corrupt electoral process.
the corrupt electoral process.
Our politicians
Our politicians
run for election
run for elections
for over 2 years.
for over 2 years.
That is way too long.
That is way too long.
The next problem is
Next problem is
the banks foreclosing our people's houses.
the banks foreclosing our people's houses.
People are becoming homeless
People are becoming homeless
over and over,
over and over,
nationwide,
nationwide,
because of the bank's greed.
because of the bank's greed.
The next problem is
The next problem is
the corporate greed,
the corporate greed,
such as
such as
Walmart,
Walmart,
McDonald's,
McDonald's,
and all other giant corporations.
and all other giant corporations.
They are, by them buying the lowest priced items,
By
By
them,
buying the lowest priced items,
people are losing their jobs.
people are losing their jobs.
We can no longer fund consumerism.
We can no longer fund consumerism.
We must allow. I can't think, guys.
We must allow.
Next problem is
The next problem is
the death of the middle class.
the death of the middle class.
People can no longer afford to live.
people can no longer
We can no longer afford to live the life that we once lived.
The American dream
The American dream.
It's slowly dying.
slowly die.
The last problem I'm going to address
Last problem I'm going to address
is the corporate control of social media.
is the corporate control of social media.
When only six large companies
When only 6 large companies
control 90% of the media,
control 90% of the media.
where are the people's voices? voices?
Where are the people's voices?
Right here.
First off,
there was an interest in
There was
developing an easy way to disseminate information on the Occupy process.
And subsequently,
when people find out about the General Assemblies,
it might cut away
maybe the people who might be on the periphery if they're uncomfortable.
people who are on the periphery if they're uncomfortable
With the hand signals and stuff.
with the hand signals and stuff.
There was a desire to join other groups.
There was a desire to join other groups.
For instance, like the Worcester foreclosure team.
For instance, the Worcester foreclosure team.
In representing people that have been affected.
In representing people that have been affected
By economic fallout and general failure.
by economic fallout and general failure
Of our financial setup.
of our financial setup.
Everyone in my group
Everyone in my group
is very interested
is very interested
in acting in Greater Worcester
in acting in Greater Worcester
to make real change
to make real change
that supports Worcester's communities.
supports Worcester's
Just the dialogue and the communication
the dialogue and communication
and just the opportunity to have a venue like this.
and the opportunity to have a venue like this.
We had an 8th grader
And we had an 8th grader.
and we had some sort of veteran human beings in our
And we had some sort of veteran human being.
stage, and it was an honor to be sitting with them.
And it was an honor to be sitting with them. First of all,
We want to ensure
we want to ensure
that there's communication
that there's communication
between the Occupy Worcester
between the Occupy Worcester
and the other occupation movements.
and the other occupation movements.
We
We believe
change starts local
change starts local
and becomes national.
and becomes national.
Very important
Very important
that everyone here
that everyone here
make the effort
make the effort
to invite
to invite
all friends and families.
all friends and families,
Even if you believe
even if you believe
they might not want to come.
they might not want to come,
Because they might tell
because they might tell
someone about it who does want to come.
someone about it who does want to come.
We believe action
We believe action
is more likely possible
is more likely possible
if we deliver our grievances
to deliver our grievances
to Congressman Jim McGovern.
to Congressman Jim McGovern.
He is a representative
He is a representative
of this community of Worcester,
of this community of Worcester,
and it's very important
and it's very important
that he know we exist.
that he know we exist,
That he know that we have demands.
that he knows that we have demands,
That he knows that we're organized.
that he knows that we're organized.
It was also brought up
It was also brought up
that further into the future,
that further into the future,
we begin to develop ideas
we begin to develop ideas
that will target
that will target
specific corporations
specific corporations
and what we can do
and what we can do
to get their attention
to get their attention
and get them to change policy.
and get them to change policies.
Places like Bank of America
Places like Bank of America
that institute a $5 policy
that institute a $5 policy
for you to use your own money
for you to use your own money
is a big sign
is a big sign
that they have not heard us yet,
that they have not heard us yet,
but they will.
but they will. My group talked about
both where we were coming from individually
both where we were coming from individually
and what we want to see happen through this occupation and movement.
and what we want to see happen through this occupation and movement.
Many of of these things were already mentioned.
Many of these things were already mentioned,
So this might just serve as a good summarization.
so this might just serve as a good summarization.
The first area of conversation is that
The first area of conversation is that
we are all the 99%,
we are all the 99%,
and we want to see this movement
and we want to see this movement
truly represent that.
truly represent that.
On that note, we would like to see
We would like to see
a system of communication
a system of communication
that prioritizes voices that aren't usually heard.
voices that aren't usually heard.
Women, minorities, and people who have been kicked out of the process.
and people who have been kicked out of the process.
This is not to be confused
This is not to be confused
with exclusion
with exclusion
or censorship
or censorship
of people who aren't
of people who aren't
not minority.
not minorities.
A good illustration is a quote that Muhammad Ali
Is a quote that Muhammad Ali
said during an interview when he was asked
when he was asked
if he wanted to run for president.
if he wanted to run for president.
He said no.
He said no.
He said if there's a ship
He said if there's a ship
with rich people on it,
with rich people on it
on the upper decks,
on the upper decks,
he was working
and he was working
in the lower decks,
in the lower decks,
and someone told him,
and someone told him,
you get to be the captain,
"You get to be the captain,"
he would say,
he would say,
this ship must be sinking.
"This ship must be sinking."
That is how
That is how
I think we can all agree
I think we can all agree
the minority,
the minority,
the poor,
poor,
the female,
female,
transgender,
transgender,
the bisexual,
bisexual,
and the homosexual
and the homosexual
have all been made to feel
have all been made to feel
about the American political process
about the American political process
as it currently stands.
as it currently stands.
So we would like to see
We would like to see
that prioritization organization in conversation.
that prioritization organization in conversation.
Also related to the 99%,
Also relates to 99%.
we want to include
We want to include
the actual 99%,
the actual 99%,
not just those
not just those
that know about it right now.
that know about it right now.
It was mentioned before
It was mentioned before
about a community outreach program.
about a community outreach program.
Everything he said.
Everything he said.
The other main area
The other main area
relates to corporations.
relates to corporations.
Corporations are not people.
Corporations not people.
They are a business.
They are business.
If we don't like them,
If we don't like them,
we can get rid of them.
we can get rid of them.
If we like them,
If we like them,
we can support them.
we can support them.
In that regard,
In that regard,
we would like to see
we would like to see
the regulations
regulations
and legislations
and legislations
that treated businesses
that treated businesses
like businesses
like businesses
and not a pseudo-minority
and not a pseudo-minority
reinstituted.
reinstituted.
We would also like to see
We would also like to see
ways that the individual,
ways that the individual,
through their action,
through their actions,
can help to bring about
can help to bring about
this change.
this change.
Corporations
Corporations
don't care
don't care
what you have to think
what you have to think
if they have your money.
if they have your money.
They could care less about it.
They could care less about you.
About our political party differences.
We don't care about our political party differences.
We are here
We are here
together.
together.
We have made a list
We have made a list
of things that we have agreed on.
of things that we have agreed on,
A consensus
a consensus
of our ideas.
of our ideas.
To begin,
To begin,
banks play a huge role in our government.
banks play a huge role in our government.
The
power to the individuals
The power to the individuals
needs to be addressed to media,
needs to be addressed to media,
government, and banking. Campaign money shouldn't matter. Why can't we run for president?
Why can't we run for president?
Why can't they donate to us?
Why can't they donate to us?
To continue,
To continue,
we are not properly funding education.
we are not properly funding education.
Money should not equal opportunity.
Money should not equal opportunity.
Opportunity should be something called equality.
Opportunity should be something called equality.
To begin this, wars fund our government.
Wars fund our government.
War is an industry.
War is an industry.
Alright, I have an example of a person in my group. Because I didn't ask them, they will remain anonymous. At age 17, they were diagnosed with leukemia. At age 20, with medical expenses alone, he is $1.2 million dollars in debt. Healthcare should not equal indentured servitude. We can all agree there is something wrong with our system. We need to make capitalism work. We don't need to work for capitalism. Well, we do. But you know what I mean. There is another person in my group who recently had to choose her daughter's tuition or her own mortgage. And she chose her daughter's tuition. What about her other three kids? What else will she have to give up? Is there anything she can still give up? Stop me if I go on too long. Again, here's another thing. We need to have a stronger influence in our Congress. Each one of you deserves to have their voice heard by each and everyone else. As we've done today, I am speaking on behalf of my group. I have not left one point untouched.
Issues. Government does not represent us.
Government does not represent us.
Government does not care.
Government does not care.
Issue.
Issue.
Media has been representing
Media has been representing
protesters.
protesters.
Media has been misrepresenting
Media has been misrepresenting
and criminalizing protesters.
protesters.
Issue.
Issue.
Worry for future generations.
Worry for future generations.
Issue. Bipartisan politics.
Bipartisan politics.
Issue.
Issue.
The personhood of corporations.
The personhood of corporations.
Issue.
Issue.
Government backed by corporations.
Government backed by corporations.
Solutions.
Solutions.
Address reform to two-party politics.
Address reform to two-party politics.
Solutions.
Solution.
American votes, which provides third-party alternative.
American votes provides third-party alternatives.
Solutions.
Solution.
Constitutional amendments.
Constitutional amendments.
Solutions.
Solution.
Ignore corporate lords.
Ignore corporate lords.
Solution.
Solution.
Vote for who you want.
Vote for who you want.
Not necessarily the lesser evil.
Not necessarily the lesser evil.
Solution.
Solution.
Affect no corporate or private
No corporate or private
influence in the campaign process.
influence in the campaign process.
Solution.
Solution.
Continual consecutive assemblies.
Continual consecutive
Or
assemblies.
weekly assemblies.
Weekly assemblies.
Solution.
Solution.
Visit OccupyWorcester.com.
Visit OccupyWorcester.com.
Solution.
Solution.
Inconvenience large corporations
Inconvenience large
by
corporations.
moving money to local banks.
By moving money to local banks.
Solution. Blog and use your voice.
Blog and use your voice.
Solution.
Solution.
Call representatives in city councils.
Call representatives to city council.
Solution.
Solution.
Encourage conversation
Encourage
and
conversation.
engage in conversation.
And engage in conversation.
Solution.
Solution.
Think about where to meet
Think about where to meet
as cold weather approaches.
as cold weather approaches.
Solution.
Solution.
Consider how we portray ourselves
Consider how we portray ourselves
to the media
to the media
in dress and demeanor
in dress and demeanor
to deter criminalization.
to deter criminalization.
Finally,
Finally,
this is a grassroots beginning.
this is a grassroots beginning.
Participatory democracy
Participatory
is
democracy
building this community.
is building this community.
Keep taking care of yourselves.
Keep taking care of yourselves.
Please don't drink
Please don't drink
or use drugs publicly
or use drugs publicly